Hello friends, Jennifer Pearson here, Thistle Gypsy, with another Dark Deck interview. This time I'm looking at the Dark Fairytale Tarot, which according to its name, of course, is designed for kind of dark inquiries, and in my case I'm trying to see what decks do the best job of giving me psychological or emotional information about darker aspects of who I am or how I deal with things, kind of things that end up being unproductive, maybe subconscious under the surface, that kind of thing, to bring those into the light. So I have a set of questions that I call the Dark Deck interview that I'm using to evaluate a bunch of decks. And so far I am on, this will be deck number 8. And so far, no deck has surpassed the Osho Zen Tarot. So I've been buying these decks thinking that I need a dark deck. And I had one on my shelf for, I don't know if I've had it for 2 years or 3 years now. And so it goes. But we're not done yet, so let's take a look. How are you a dark deck is question number 1. It's the Fool. And the Fool is wearing a carnival mask. I'm just trying to interpret the image as I'm seeing it now, just as it is here. Is that like a pocketbook? What is that she has in her hand? And it's a little strange because she's not looking at the cliff. She's looking at you directly in the face. Unless that's the back side, the way her hair is, it could be the back side of her head. But assuming it's the front, when she's looking at the person instead of at the cliff, it's almost like, oh, it's an hourglass that she has, I think. No, I can't tell again. It's almost like, I dare you to dare me. Again, it's sort of petulant energy. I dare you to dare me to jump off of this cliff. So it could primarily be one of relationships, dysfunction, kind of, she's not going to do it on her own. She's only going to do it in reaction to somebody else. So maybe some emotional immaturity there. But let's go on. Number 2, what dis-ease can you help me with? And here we have the 8, I think. Oops. The 8 of Swords. So she's got some interesting fire energy up around her arms. Oh, she's tied between 2 pillars. She's chained to 2 pillars. Vampire. She's been labeled a vampire. Oh, she's supposed to be burning, like they're burning her at the stake. It is pretty dark. And here, in fact, she does not appear to have a way to get out of this, which is typical of the most other decks, and certainly the Rider-Waite-Smith. She is not chained like this, and she does have a way to get free. So I guess she's being bound and burned and essentially killed, not from her own thoughts, but from the thoughts of others. The others have put up these boundaries because of a label that is on her. They have labeled her a vampire. And so their thoughts about her end up condemning her, regardless of who she is. So that ends up being a very interesting, actually, Eight of Swords. So what is this? What disease can you help me with? I guess this would mean kind of persecution. Afraid of being persecuted or labeled as something, and being socially persecuted because of it, whether I am that thing or not. Very interesting. And it can speak to female victimization in general. And by that I don't mean playing the victim, I mean like being the victim. And it's interesting because I have recently been watching videos about serial killers, which is not something I normally do, and many of them prey on women. I've watched only one that focuses on men. And I'm not 100% sure why YouTube started showing them to me, or why that has become something that I even will engage in. I don't know if I was watching something else that had to do with crime, and then so they started to throw me, show. And sometimes it's just you're watching something that's a news program, and suddenly Google/YouTube starts showing you all kinds of things in relation to it. But I certainly have a choice about what I choose to click on, and I choose to click on one of those, and it shows me more, and I chose to click on another one. So question number 3 is, what is your recommendation for that dis-ease? And then watching those things does create dis-ease. Trying to get a feel for what this is in the background. I think it's a cupola, because that looks like a little window right there. Maybe because this appears to be a graveyard, maybe it's a mausoleum in the back. Maybe that's what it's supposed to be. I couldn't tell now that I've looked at it closely. All right, is Queen of Wands. So this is the solution. I mean, clearly she's standing in her power. So I guess that's, just remember how powerful you are. Don't give your power away. That sort of thing, that sort of advice is what I'm getting out of this. And certainly with that cat energy and everything, that the Queen of Wands is fierce. So, being in touch with your own fierceness. Okay, so the next one. What dark aspect of my personality holds me back the most in my relationships? The world. And this is the second time the world has come up for this question. I think it's this question. And another one, the world came up, I think, for a different question. I'm trying to think of what deck it was. It was the Rackham Tarot. So now I've had 2 decks that have brought back cards that originally came up in the Rackham Tarot, and I wasn't really understanding. So that's really interesting. But I would say that this deck thus far is doing better than the Rackham Tarot did. So this is what dark aspect of my personality holds me back the most in my relationships. The world. This strikes me a little bit of like the magician that came up in the Santa Muerte in this position. Which is, well, maybe I come across, I mean, certainly I should come across as independent because I have been. Maybe, but this is not, to me, this is not a dark aspect of my personality. I would say maybe the way she's striding there, the ability or inclination to walk away. Yep, it does mystify me a little bit, but I do feel like it needs to be addressed because it's come up twice. So interesting. I'm not quite getting it. This is what dark aspect of my personality holds me back the most in my career. So we have the Three of Pentacles here. What is on the ground? Oh, there's a woman on the ground. Looking back at this weird dark figure. This doesn't strike me as the typical I mean, they look like they're looking at each other like, what are you doing here? It's not the usual Three of Pentacles. It's like he's looking at her like that, like, what are you doing here? And she's looking at him like that, what are you doing here? Why are you behind me? Creepy dude. So the whole cooperation thing just is not here in this card. And I feel like it has a worthwhile message for me, but I'm having a hard time putting my finger on it. I will say this because we're looking for aspects of my personality. And certainly one aspect of my personality is I don't like being interrupted from something that I'm in the middle of or I'm working on. And I can be kind of cranky when that happens. So I'm identifying here with the girl who seems to be doing something. I'm not sure what she's doing hanging out there. And that she's being interrupted by someone with a stick, wearing a dark coat and a dark hat. So I have to admit, it's like, I don't like this deck. I don't dislike it in, like I hate this deck and I have to get rid of this deck. But I think it's almost like the second Santa Muerte, the Mexican Santa Muerte deck that has the art that is largely unappealing to me, but still gives some pretty darn good messages in love readings and stuff, and calls out different aspects. If you look closely at the card and you don't necessarily make the Rider-Waite-Smith Association, the Tarot Association, or if you take that as a starting off place, but look closely at what's in the picture, it actually does give good readings, and I would not be inclined to get rid of it. And this might end up being that deck. So far, of the quote-unquote dark decks that are intended to be dark decks, this one comes out on top so far easily. It could still be knocked off, but I think it did have valuable things to say. It was relatively readable. So I would give this a 6 to a 7. I would say it didn't do quite as well as the Osho Zen, which I gave a 7 to 8. But I think it's in there. It's in the running. I can't automatically, put it onto the to go pile, the I'm done with this deck pile. So so very interesting. I'm glad I'm doing this, and I'm not just going like gut responses to the decks. So that one remains a definite maybe in my collection. I won't, like I said, I won't automatically be getting rid of it. And doing this whole process makes me realize how many of these decks I'm not going to get rid of just because they don't pass this. That deck, the Dark Fairytale, if it hadn't passed this, I would have gotten rid of it. But it did pretty good. It really did. And so I feel like I can't automatically discount it. So there we go. In fact, that one is, I would put that one second after the Osho Zen. All right, that's it for today. I will be back with more. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.